type of speech that you have to give is the unexpected speech. I am certain that if you had enough warning and enough time to prepare, you could put together something for a public speech that you would be comfortable with and you would be confident of, even if you are not a fan of public speaking. You might have your script, which I wouldn't recommend you doing. You might have your flashcards, which I also wouldn't recommend you doing. Well, however you want to do it, and I really hope you wouldn't try and memorize it. However you want to do it, I think if you had enough time, you could prepare quite a nice speech. But if you're sitting at a dinner and to your horror, the managing partner says to the clients that in a few minutes, you are going to give a presentation, you're going to give a speech about your firm, your practice, or something, that can be a little bit traumatic. That can be a little bit difficult for us to be able to give an impromptu, spontaneous speech. Therefore, rather than do nothing or improvise, I would recommend you create a bubble diagram. What you do is, very quickly, you can do this in 2 or 3 minutes. You take a napkin and you draw 3 bubbles, bubble 1, bubble 2, bubble 3. And once you have these bubbles drawn, you connect them with a line. These bubbles actually represent the introduction, the body, and the conclusion of your speech, of your presentation. Now, once you've got that done, you can look at this as a kind of mind map. In the introduction, what are you going to say? So you put your hook, you put your self-introduction, you put a few key ideas. In the body, you draw off some different spokes. You could talk about the numbers, you could talk about the history, you could talk about value propositions. What type of value propositions? And you can draw off some more spokes. And then the same thing in the conclusion. The more time you have to prepare, the more sophisticated and complicated you can make this bubble diagram. Now, the wonderful thing about the bubble diagram is that it is in the golden middle between pure improvisation, where you have no structure, but can be highly engaging, and a pure script, which means you have total structure, but you can be dull and very boring. With a bubble diagram, you can then stand up, you can talk to the audience, you can have the face-to-face interaction, the gesticulation, the facial expressions, and you can glance down at the bubble diagram. You don't have to go in a linear order. The very same bubble diagram will have a different speech with it. However, it will follow the important 3-part structure of introduction, body, conclusion. You're going to say what you're going to say, you're going to say what you're saying, and you're going to say what you've said. That's very important. That's a very common mistake to avoid, where lawyers don't have really any introduction or conclusion. They just have body. So you avoid that. If you see that something really resonates with the audience in your bubble diagram, you spend more time talking about it. If you see that something isn't so interesting, you can skip it. So I really like the bubble diagram because it saved me in quite a few moments when I had to unexpectedly do a presentation or a speech. Of course, if you do this the evening before, your bubble diagram can be with lots of different colors, with capital letters, but be sure not to make it text heavy. Keywords, key numbers, these are the ones that you should be able to look at and to glance. And of course, you're not going to hold it in your hand. In your hand, you might have a prop, maybe a glass of wine, and the other hand, you can gesticulate. You need to have your engagement with the audience. So you mustn't be holding any script or flashcards or even the bubble diagram. I wonder if you've ever heard about this before. How do you deal with spontaneous speeches? Would this be very upsetting for you? If you have any thoughts or comments, drop them in the messages below or send me an email, jjmcveigh@nicodonia.com. I'm always happy to hear from you. Thank you.